So I've been putting this off for a while. Right now, we're going to be checking out Burgerkrieg's Mages Deny Reality, Mage the Ascension. Also from the thumbnail, the 9 traditions. I've been looking forward to this one for a while, but also because so many other things that like the Nefandi that I need to check out, and I really want to because I think they're a cool faction of just insane evil masterminds who are also not masterminding and are very much to the insane side and also evil as fuck in a world that's gray. They are definitely just the worst. Gotta watch traditions first to get the background. And my wife is cackling. I should be afraid. I should definitely be afraid. I'm not going to think about this. But so I can understand what's happening later, we're going to jump into the 9 traditions to get the base level of what is the Mage, the Awakening's, well, main factions. Also, because I happen to know more about the Technocracy than the traditions themselves now, which is kind of weird. So let's find out where this goes. And Miriam's just telling me to be like Cosmic Void and reject the need for sleep. I mean, honestly, if he had got done with that Coffin and Andy video, I would be watching it right now. And probably be very concerned. That sounds about right. Let's jump into it.
I know what you're thinking. Burger, how can
Brave of you to assume I think. I try not to.
I support the content you make? You can do the Patreon thing. The link is in the description. But also, probably more so, you think, Burger, did you become a World of Darkness lore channel? Is that what's happening here?
Wait. He wasn't? Really? Oh, that's actually weird. Also, I'm being told if a Bane possesses a Nefandi, the Nefandi becomes benevolent? Well, more benevolent, which is a very low bar, probably.
No, I haven't. And I am, in fact, working on some, more political and philosophical type stuff. However,
honestly, I thought him going into Rocco's Basilisk was more of a outside from. Apparently, that's more returning to form.
Have been hyperfixated on Mage the Ascension lore recently, and with the overwhelming, immense success of my Vampire the Masquerade's clan video, I figured, I'd do the thing that is the most requested video for me to do right
how
now.
YouTube works.
Anyway, Mage, what is it, why is it, and what does it have to do with
Magic.
vampires? Well, in many ways,
Or
Mage
nothing.
is vampire's nerdier cousin. I'm speaking in a context here where Vampire and all the other World of Darkness games sort of represent various different tropes from classic turn of the millennium high school.
Oh, when did this video come out? 3 years ago. I'm not sure when the new edition of Mage came out, so a lot could have changed at this point. I don't actually know. I think it might be after that, but I'm not entirely sure.
Culture, that's the analogy that I have chosen for this. Werewolf is the outdoorsy kid, Wraith is the gloomy goth kid, and Changeling is the kid with schizophrenia. And because I know
We call them art kids.
I have a lot of Vampire the Masquerade fans in the audience, I will be sort of drawing parallels to help you explain, get an easier grasp of the universe, because they are in the same universe. But even though that's the case, I must warn you that very few, if any at all, concepts that we talk about in Mage are directly related or
Oh. Wait. I was about to say that every setting in White Wolf and the World of Darkness doesn't tie into each other. Then I realized that the Vampire or Tremere clan explicitly require mages. So you kind of need to acknowledge that, unlike some of the others. Yeah, their settings you can play them on their own, but you're wrong type deal.
Parallel or can easily translate to Vampire the Masquerade.
Also, I'm being told this is the current lore. Oh, nice.
What is a mage and what makes them special? Well,
reality benders. With caveats.
Mages are woke. They are in fact so woke that they realize that not only is gender a social construct, everything else is too. In a metaphysical
Yeah, no, technically that is perfectly accurate to describe how mages work. Everything is a social construct, specifically what everyone else agrees is real. Huh. That isn't actually a joke. I thought he was making a joke at first. No, he's just blatantly saying exactly what it is. The more you know.
Physical sense, mages are regular-ish, human-ish people who have realized a fundamental truth. Reality is bullshit. It's
I mean, to be fair, you can realize that one a lot sooner. Just how far you can push it, man.
Up, it's a matter of personal preference. You can just reject it and substitute your own. It's about living your truth in a very literal sense.
Yeah.
Because if you believe something hard enough, it just is.
And if anything about the planes they create in the Technocracy apply to this one, if you apply your truth hard enough and everyone else's truth rejects you, you are literally cast out into your own little world of your own creation. And that's not even a metaphor. I mean that quite literally. You become basically your own little mini god. Or maybe big god, because that may or may not have been a mage or a real construct, and it depends on who you talk to. Who knows?
This sets mages apart from other supernatural beings in the world of darkness in some major ways.
That they're
For
broken?
instance, you have the vampiric disciplines and the equivalents thereof in the various other games that
Actually, one of the things I'm really interested about is seeing what the power level might be, because talking to everyone, werewolves start as the you're going to die faction if you fight them, because they are low level, the most powerful to start with. But then as you ramp up, I mean, the highest level of power in vampire ends the world. There's Cain, you lose. And then there's all the other zero, rest of the goal money, got bored. Dude, you've given so much, man. You don't have to give more. Tomorrow, please don't. I know it'll end out this subathon, but you've done more than enough. For anyone wondering what I'm talking about, Zero's gone above and beyond, making this subathon go absolutely insane. And apparently make sure that I can't actually leave a like on his own comment. Okay, that is weird. Okay. But yeah, dude, save some. And if you have to refund anything, I don't mind.
Provide certain very specifically worded powers that vampires have access to. For instance, the Celerity 2 dot power fleetness says the vampire can add their celerity to non-combat dexterity checks. We have
that means something.
Obfuscate 1 dot power, Cloak of Shadows, remain hidden so long as you do not move. Mages have
they can play
no
spy.
such limitations.
What?
Their abilities come from the mastery, and I use this word in a very holistic sense, of the 9 spheres of magic. And within those spheres, and any combination thereof, you can just say what effect you want to achieve.
Okay, so I've seen some people do live plays with like, okay, this is literally Norfolk Wizard game where they did a live play of Mage. And I thought they were just like playing around with homebrew law. I didn't realize that was okay, it's explicitly, the DM says this is what you need. And if you're good enough, you can do shit anything. And I do mean shit the anything, because apparently even that would be fine. Okay, that is a very loose system. I was not aware of that.
And then it happens. Now, this does have some actual limitations. They just don't just go around and go, oh, well, all my enemies are dead. Haha.
I mean, they could. It's just Paradox would kick them in the ass. I wonder if... No, it's probably the Technocracy who would use the power of money to bribe someone to do it, because then it would actually be money for them. Or magic. And Zero de Nova, in D&D, you always a male human fighter. I mean... It's a fun class, especially when you get to epic levels.
They have some limitations in the sense of how much they can impact the world, how much they can change things, and how deep they can change
based on
aspects
paradox.
of these spheres. The more mastery you attain over a sphere, and
wait, if everything's based on consensus, even within your own group, and the Technocracy is making their own reality based on making everything conform, because some people were so absolutely horrible they felt they had to, and some of them may or may not be getting better now. Does that mean even the concept of 9 spheres of magics is just the consensus of mages and not actually what it could be? Probably. That's kind of bullshit. I love it. Also, something said, the more leveled a mages, the more the DM has to take turns with the players for storytelling. Oh, God. Wait, does that mean there's actually a way for the forever DM to stop being a forever DM? I think I have just found a way to bribe a few people.
Over the power of magic and the realization that the world isn't real, the more you can change. And with this immense level of power comes another burden that the other supernatural creatures of World of Darkness, which the mages call the Night Folk, do not have to deal with. You see, reality as it exists for most people, and it does exist in the same way for most people,
including the
shaped
monsters,
by something called the consensus. And for the purpose of mage metaphysics, consensus is what the sleepers, so the people who are not mages, agree reality is.
And according to chat, where Mira mentioned, I mean, in the Dark Ages, no one used the 9 spheres model, but then they came up with it in the late Middle Ages, meaning that they're talking about consensus as if it's only the sleepers, but the mages who are awoken or awake also have consensus as well towards what magic is. And it's a hermetic paradigm, that's the word, but they're out of game stats. Okay, that makes sense.
Now, of course, it's the case that not all sleepers agree on what the reality is. There's differences of opinion on what is the case. So I'm not talking about the disagreements where, like, most people say vaccines work, and then there's a handful of people who say vaccines don't work. They would probably all agree that just walking around and suddenly levitating yourself willy-nilly, breaking the laws of gravity, that's not possible.
I have met so many people who actually believe that is something that is temporary. I'm not even joking about this, man. I've met people who sometimes wonder, well, what if gravity isn't real here? I don't believe it. You're wrong. No, it's floating. Fuck you. And I thought they were joking with me for a bit. Then I realized, oh, no. Are they at least schizophrenic? Oh, no, they're not. Oh, they're just stupid. Oh. Yeah, it's very disappointing.
Would probably no matter.
Also, Necro, you prefer a mage, the Awakening's 10 Arcana? Oh, must be the updated then, yeah.
To their stance on vaccines, they'd be unified in that.
It's like, you believe in vaccines? Yeah, I also believe that I have a body. Do you believe you have a body? Yeah. Okay, we agree on that part.
Mage, however, might probably just sort of reject that assumption and break the laws of gravity anyway. However, for the person that doesn't believe in vaccines still work because the overwhelming majority of sleepers agree that vaccines work. They are, because they're not mages, enslaved to the seemingly objective reality of the consensus. The consensus isn't a simple democracy, though. It's a whole tapestry of predominant paradigms and various different belief systems, and it's a little bit different over here than it is over there, but that's a whole different thing.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad I went into the Technocracy video he did first, because when he's talking about the layers of reality, he went into so much detail about that with the Technocracy and how they're trying to level it out, because some of those individual areas were really fucked up and hostile to existing. It's one of the reasons I actually really like the Technocracy as a faction. While they are the worst people to go about it, they are, in many ways, actually good. In the dumbest, most asshole way possible. And I love it because it's one of those, they're the good, oh God, how are they the good guys? I don't, type moments, except for the Syndicate, who are explicitly as horrible as you can imagine. And I kind of like that they have that too.
Going way too deep into the nature of reality. What matters is that if you clap at consensus often enough, the consensus will eventually clap back.
Called it.
As you do magic, you begin to acquire paradox. And if you do magic with too much paradox attached to your name, at some point, a paradox spirit is going to show up, probably dressed like a cop, and he's going to arrest you and put you in reality jail. After years of people trying to sell me this game, right? Trying to go, oh, you would really enjoy Mage. You would really...
Honestly, every time I've heard it described, Paradox wasn't a cop putting in reality jail. It was something goes wrong and fucks you up. I guess a cop would technically count.
That would be very cool. And me always going, oh yeah, eventually I'll check it out. This thing. A friend of mine told me about the fucking reality cops, and I found that so funny that it actually sparked my interest. Nightfolk, like vampires and werewolves, seem to be immune to paradox. And the mages are rather curious as to why this is, because if they could figure it out, you know, being immune to paradox is pretty fucking powerful. When a vampire with Potence 5 puts her fists through like a concrete wall, the reality cops are nowhere to be seen, even though most people would likely agree that is somewhat unusual. The prevailing theory is that they're not so much immune to paradox as that they have their own micro consensus that is valid for this type of specific creature.
And since that consensus probably started to form with Cain, and then other ungodly powerful, actually no, explicitly ungodly powerful monsters, if anything, they're on the lower end of what would even be close to paradox for them.
where the laws are a little bit different and reality works in a way that's not quite the same as with the overarching consensus. Or, you know, perhaps the vampires, because of they're pale, the skin that they have, it's pale, and so the cops, oh my
god.
The cops, this was going to be some sort of like socio-political commentary about broken windows policing. But it's falling apart as I'm weaving it. There are ways in which mages can avoid accumulating paradox, which is what happens when they perform what is called vulgar magic. That's magic where it's obvious that this is like supernatural and it's going against reality.
I found one way to always get vulgar magic to work. Slip the DM a 20. And play as a syndicate. That is explicitly an actual way to do it, and I love it.
What some mages do, and this is pretty effective, is to not be around people when they do magic.
Yeah.
That tends to work because the amount of witnesses that can actually see what's going on is relevant.
I'm always wondering if a con artist would make the absolute best magician because they can convince people that it's legitimate.
To determining the paradox you acquire from performing vulgar magic. Man. However, even if you're transforming into a dragon in the middle of Antarctica, you're still transforming into a dragon, and consensus will have a problem with that whether or not someone is actually looking. Some mages have decided to escape to the one place not corrupted by consensus.
Don't say New Jersey, don't say New Jersey, don't say New Jersey. Detroit? Close enough.
Space. That's a
I forgot about that part.
Step to take, and very few mages actually ever do it, but it does happen. Another great way of avoiding paradox is to use implements to work your magic that, you know, people, if they see it, because they are indoctrinated by decades of science fiction programming, go, see, I didn't know that was possible, but I guess this is...
Which is even weirder when you consider there is science fiction that people think is magic, so it stops working. Oh, man.
It's very convenient for some mages because those are the kinds of foci that they use to impose their will upon reality anyway. Most commonly, this is done by disguising magic as technology. The current consensus is informed by science and reason, and so someone who does magic, like a bunch of incantations and then starts shining and hovering above the ground, that's utterly unbelievable. However, you give them an anti-gravity belt, or even cooler, a hoverboard.
Oh god. Mages, unironically, are just 40k orcs. They're all weird boys. It works because they think it works. The difference being orcs get more powerful based on it, where mages get less powerful because they have to work within what other people believe. But functionally otherwise working on the exact same principle. Huh.
And a lot of people won't immediately reject the thought. You probably still should be doing that in the middle of Times Square, and there's really no, like, technologically...
No, trust me, dude, it's the middle of Times Square. They have seen worse and they have seen weirder.
Believable way of transforming into a dragon. But playing chameleon with reality is a good way to avoid paradox. The more we...
I still want to see, though, if someone would play it off. I'm not going to make this look reality. I'm going to make reality look as I wish. Because you can convince enough people to believe it. With a DM, go with it? No, not after the first time. Because the first time will always be the one where they realize how much of a mistake they just made.
Esoteric and poorly understood by the general public the science is, so long as they're aware of like it vaguely, the more you can get away with doing. Which brings me to the Technocracy. Now I know this is a video about the Council of Nine Mystic Traditions,
which
but
I don't know much about.
I have to preface it with a little bit about the Technocracy because you need this to...
Also, I'm being told by Miran that Gork and Mork are canon in World of Darkness. I mean, it's not any weirder than how there is a character canon, and not removed yet, from GW's Games or Games Workshop's 40K called Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau, what everyone else knows as the impending Disney lawsuit, if they ever reference him again.
Understand how the world of Mage even works. If you wanted drastically, dangerously, and incorrectly oversimplified, the Technocracy are the Sabbats of Mage the Ascension. They're the bad guys. But unlike the
Yeah,
Sabbat,
but
they won, and their paradigm is now the global world consensus. That isn't how it really is, but that is kind of how the Technocracy is cast. They're a group of technology-oriented mages that have, for the past couple of centuries, used the unification and standardization of a global consensus as basically their means of waging war against all the other ways of doing magic. And you might be saying, hang on, isn't the thing that makes magic the fact that it can't be explained by science and it falls outside of the bounds of science and
well, it only does that because they made people believe that. So it's not magic, so you don't have paradox. That might actually be the reason he's going to give to.
it isn't science, therefore it isn't real? You ever use a microwave? You put cold food in this metal box, and you press a button, and a light comes on, and the food spins, and there's a sound. And then it beeps, and you open the door, and the food is cooked. Or rather, the food isn't cooked.
I'm going to be honest, prior to watching Spyro Pyro, and that is a rabbit hole itself, I also would have believed it's basically magic. Having watched it, I realize it basically makes water vibrate, and vibration is energy, and energy is heat. So it warms shit with water in it up. Yeah, that's it.
Cook. The bowl that the soup was in is hot as shit, but the actual soup is still frozen solid. This clearly goes against the laws of thermodynamics. Oh, but because they tell you something about the microwave radiation and the hydrogen atoms, whatever the fuck, you believe it. You just think this isn't magic. Yeah. You use one of these? What, one of these fellas? Yeah, you got one of these? I talk to my grandma like once a week with this thing.
Damn.
And she lives in Spain. I live in Germany. She doesn't come by here. I don't go by.
I'll be honest, I saw so many things in his background with English titles, I thought he just was in America. Or Britain.
There every week to talk to her. She speaks her voice into this device, so she also has one of these.
Also, aren't Spain and Germany close enough you literally could just take a train ride there every week? I mean, it's not like America where that's 3 hours to wait to see if the train arrives, and then it's the same price as a plane trip for across the country, but maybe for a 5-minute drive. It's actually possible you could do that, dude.
And it comes out of mine.
That'd be fun.
And then I speak my voice into this device, and it comes out at her end, and we can have conversations that way. But somehow, because the implement that we use to make this happen is a slab of metal and plastic and not a crystal ball, it's science and not
I mean, it's not even that close because there's freaking crystals in the top of it. Glass is a crystal. So it is technically a, actual crystal that you can make balls out of if you're really creative. Oh god, they have bending ones. You could actually make a ball out of it. If you get a bending phone, you can make a crystal ball out of it. It's unironically what you could do. And I'm being told by Zero German trains suck. Ah, but you're missing a fact. I'm American. I've been on American trains. I've been on American trains in Florida. Sucking would be an improvement.
Magic. There's crystals in here too, you know. You, my friend, are caught up in the consensus. You don't even realize that all the marvelous technology you think of as not magic is actually just magic wearing a business suit. The reason you think finance and the stock market are real...
No. Even in reality, no, it's not. It's the most bullshit thing ever. And the more you get into it, you realize, oh, it really is bullshit because it's based on people's predictions. It's not real. It's literally a casino that's slightly informed on betting about how other businesses are going to do. Yeah. That's not a joke either.
And the reason you think that the laws governments make aren't physically compelling is because that's what the technocracy wants you to believe. And they really don't like the fact that there's still a bunch of wizards out there.
Wait, did he say it's because... Oh.
Wants you to believe. And they really don't like the fact that you think that the laws governments make aren't physically compelling is because that's what the technocracy wants you to believe.
Actually, that's a very valid point. The fact that you are not physically enforced to follow the law by government is kind of punk of the technocracy. Also, this will have to be the last video because apparently my mother-in-law, who's going to be in the room across from me, is going to fall asleep soon. So I need to not be in the position of, I think the term is committing not alive by doing things to wake her up. Yeah.
And they really don't like the fact that there's still a bunch of wizards out there doing shit that goes against the consensus that they engineered. They reckon that the world would be better off with just them in charge and no reality meddling spellcasters to fuck around with it. And
I mean, though, the problem is the people at the top of the Technocracy are so out of touch that they are almost indistinguishable from the wizards who are causing the same problems because they don't realize they're causing problems. They actually think it's working because they're in their own bubble's reality. And the people who get to talk to them are the people who tell them what they want to hear, because all of the problems you ever have in a dysfunctional workplace are based on them having the Technocracy. Yeah. Also, Zero, what's the time for the next stream? 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, just like this last one. Although I might push it a little later if we're going for a more chill stream. We'll see how it goes. But probably either 8 or 9 a.m. Maybe 9, just because getting up early, I might want to sleep a bit because I've had It'll be 9 a.m. tomorrow because I've had so much caffeine today. I am going to have really hard time sleeping. Yeah, that is a good point, and I did not think of that. I probably should. And Marty, you mentioned the Technocracy is less the king and more scheming advisor. Yeah, that seems about accurate, yeah.
the main organization standing against them wants the predominant, well, not quite organization, they weren't an organization back there, but they were the predominant paradigm of a non-standardized, non-unified consensus that worked differently depending on where you were, are the Council of 9 Mystic Traditions. There's actually way more than 9 traditions, but they're like basically the mainline clans of...
No, see, this is actually something I didn't realize. I didn't realize there was more than that. Oh. Zero de Nova. It would basically be 1 hour later than we started today for 9 o'clock Eastern time.
Mage, the Ascension, and they're not necessarily hereditary organizations so much as they are political/philosophical groups that share certain interests, values, and organizational principles. You will certainly be influenced a lot by whoever it was that taught you magic, but even that has its limits. All mages are ultimately unique individuals, and the way magic works for them is very much idiosyncratic to them. The way
So it's more art than... It's literally more art than science because the Technocracy is more science than art. It literally works. Oh my, I was going to make a joke, then I realized, no, it's perfectly accurate.
a particular spell works for you is probably not going to work that way for other mages. However,
I wonder how that
you
would really
are much
function.
more likely to have common ground with people in your tradition than people outside of it. You could, in theory, even change traditions. It's entirely possible. It doesn't really change anything about your abilities.
Oh, I thought it was kind of like the vampires where when you're in one unless you go Sabbat, and there's a lot of bullshit there. And I'm also being told there's stuff Marta mentioned like the Knights Templar. Oh. I don't even know about them at all. Or sounds like Seers of the Throne Necro. Is that something I hear or not? I don't know. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to play Rain World just because that would be a rage game for me because we require actual skill and I am not good at skill.
It's just your general philosophical outlook on magic and how it works. I'm now going to do the exact same joke that I did in my Vampire the Masquerade Clans video.
I'm going to pretend I haven't seen it by not having seen it before.
Asked what their particular kind of mage would be like in the World of Darkness setting, the creators of Mage the Ascension just went, yes. Because the 9 traditions reflect various sets of tropes associated with different kinds of magicians from throughout the world of fiction. They're an alliance because of practicality and necessity, not because they agree on the fundamental...
Wait. So if it's based on everyone in fiction and there's always some kind of random caveat, does that mean there's people who actually believe that if they write something, it happens in reality? And that's their form of magic because that's exactly what it is? That would actually be funny, man, but it'd be super meta if you have to write a story to make magic happen. But also would be very believable by a lot of people.
Laws of the universe. Mages within a given tradition already differ vastly.
Also, Zero, I refuse to read your comment about how I have something stuck in my teeth. That didn't happen. I see nothing.
imagine across traditions. In order
What would it
to
be
bridge
like?
the gap a little and give all
are
members
the
of all
traditions like,
traditions a
though?
little bit of a frame of reference on how to approach members of different traditions, there are certain overarching principles of organization and like ranks that they have. This isn't because they believe in hierarchy, but really because of if you go by like cultural values and background and magical style and the way someone looks to like judge them as a mage, that creates immense rifts. A Spanish conquistador paladin is not gonna have any respect for an Aztec death priest. It's just not gonna happen.
Oh.
And neither is someone involved in the slave trade that practices good Christian magic going to have any respect for a voodoo shaman that they just stole from Africa. But
So it's less, here's what we believe, and more, here are the people we value. And then they self-select their organization based on that. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, holy shit, what? Yeah, according to Zero, he has 25,275 EXP, or just XP from this chat. Damn.
in the context of the 9 magical traditions, no matter how much you might look down on someone because of their background or because you don't understand what the fuck it is they are doing, if they are considered a master in their tradition, you have to respect that title. This kind of cosmopolitan approach has allowed
because if you're a master and you don't respect them, then they can make sure you aren't there to be disrespecting them. So it's the common sense of, this person can punch me in the face and I can't punch back. Hi, sir. How you doing, sir? Please don't punch me in the face, sir. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's actually just smart. Smarter than a lot of people, actually.
the Council of 9 tradition to grow from a deeply Eurocentric organization, because that's kind of where they were founded, to a, bigger, more open-minded thing that doesn't describe specific kinds of magics to specific cultural traditions, but understands the overarching philosophies and how they weave themselves through various people groups and times throughout history. But hang on, the astute among you might have already observed. There's 9 traditions and there's 9 spheres of magic. Shouldn't the thing that defines the traditions be what sphere of magic they specialize in?
Honestly, I was going to assume that, but the fact that he's highlighting it right now probably means that's a no.
Well, you forget, this is World of Darkness. That isn't how that works. Each of the traditions actually characteristically features mages who have attained great mastery over 2, 3 various different spheres.
Wait, so mastery in 2 or 3 is actually enough to say you're a badass? Oh. Hey, Coffee, what's up, man? I just got here. Is this the fiction or non-fiction? New Zealand recently got rid of their last state wizard. Coffee, we don't talk about that anymore. We don't want to get rid of all the ones left in America. Although we just call them virgins.
Each of them has like one sphere that they specialize in, and they have people really who have attained mastery of any of the spheres. It's just that some of them are more prevalent than others. But also I lied, and actually they totally represent the 9 spheres of magic. It's just that they do so in like a ceremonial sense, not in a actual sense.
Oh, so instead of saying we're the... I'm going to use a really horrible metaphor that I'm going to despise myself for making. It's kind of like saying being a Gryffindor means you're brave, but also you can be intelligent and a slimy, conniving bastard at the same time. Yeah.
In practice, they represent various philosophical principles and theories of magic. In other words...
Also, just to clarify, Martin put up an example of exactly what we're looking at here. Is World Dark Lore. Mastery in 2 or 3 spheres could earn you... You can turn people's thoughts into living golems. Damn, that seems powerful.
You don't have to be good or even skilled at all at entropy magic to be a Chakravanti, but, a lot of Chakravanti are very much skilled at entropy magic.
So it's kind of like not every square is a rectangle, or not every rectangle is a square, but every square is a rectangle. Got it.
And even the ones who aren't at least have some minute skill in it. Right, so now that we have all
that
that
mine's
important
more
stuff out of the
reductive,
way,
not
let's get into the 9 traditions, what they mean, what they represent, and what the spheres are that are attached to them. Born out of an ancient legend of a village where everyone lived in perfect peace and harmony, the Akashiana...
As someone who has come from fate, I am going to be really pressed not to call this the records. I'm not going to explain this because that is a level of spending too much money on gacha that I'm not going to acknowledge.
Also known as the Akashic Brotherhood, is the one of the 9 traditions that takes the concept of Ascension the most serious and gives it...
Wait. Oh! See, I do know a bit about Ascension. That's where you become essentially godlike by completing whatever your spirit beast, I don't remember what it's called, does. I don't know. Also, Meep. Hey, just woke up, man. Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I am. Probably for another half hour, but then I have to stop because I have family over and they want to sleep. And if I do not let them sleep, I will not be able to wake up ever again. And I like doing that. That is a thing I am very much attached to. It's grown on me, you could say.
The greatest philosophical significance. And yes, by Ascension I mean the Ascension from the title of the game. It represents an elevated state of being that apparently all mages are able to achieve, a higher essence, a transcended mind. And just by making this sort of vague description, I've pissed off like half the mages in the world because there's a lot of disagreement on what Ascension means.
So in other words, it's ill-defined probably on purpose because everyone has a different idea of what it is, but they're all aiming for it. That actually kind of works out well. Hey, Cosmic, what's up, man? Bloody hell, I'm still going? Yeah, I am. Not for much longer, though. Hey, I mean, this is a subathon. We got another 2 hours and 40 minutes that we'll finish tomorrow.
Traditions have ideas about Ascension, and all traditions think Ascension is important, some more than others. But for the Akashiyama, it is such a foundational journey for a mage to undertake that it has, through them,
do they
become
actually get
the
to
founding
succeed,
cornerstone of one of the world's major religions, Buddhism. Escaping the cycle of death.
Oh! That actually makes a lot more sense, and so that's how they define Ascension there, is escaping the cycle of death, or fully finishing Buddhism. Wait, does that mean that if someone was an incredibly talented sleeper, but also Buddhist, that they would almost verge on ascending without waking up? I don't know. Kind of curious about that. Ooh, also, just, Cosmic, I don't have more stamina. I have a lot more caffeine. Probably to dangerous amounts. I am not sleeping tonight. Yeah. And he mentioned Ascension is rare, but it can happen. Okay. Now, here's the better question. Does it happen in game? Because I was under the impression Ascension in game is like reaching level 30 in a D&D campaign. You don't. The players will die of old age before that happens. Or more likely, the schedules will desync and you never actually get a game in again, no matter what you try. I have played in D&D groups where the way they got around that was you have 12 players, at least 3 of them will be available every week. That's not a joke. Also, Zero the Crash will be hard. That's the thing. I've probably consumed maybe 300 milligrams of caffeine today. This is about 600 less than what I was coming down from 2 years ago, and 200 less than when I was coming down from last year. I've actually been doing really good about using less caffeine. So this, I'm not worried.
And rebirth is their goal, and they do get reborn, and they believe that actually all life that exists gets reborn regardless of whether or not they're mages or whether or not that's part of the consensus. It's just a natural law that exists outside of the rules of reality.
And even that's the thing I want to question. Are there natural laws, or do they only exist because of consensus? Is consensus the underlying fabric of reality, or are there laws that they have to pay attention to? I don't know, and that's actually fascinating because I wouldn't be surprised if it's intentionally vague for that very reason.
And because they are mages, they just have an easier time remembering their past lives. For instance, the Akashic record is something that's only very partially written down. It actually manifests as a sort of force in the lives of all kinds of Akashiana, and it's a mixture and tapestry of old memories and ideas that push themselves into consciousness at
Also, I'm being told there are laws, but they're flexible and not many. Oh. Hope Burger does a video about that too.
opportune times. It usually reveals itself rather cryptically, setting people on the right path or tempting them with the wrong path so they can remain firm in their ways. To walk this path...
Because if you're never tempted, then you don't really know if you're good or not. Yeah. And Cosmic mentioned to an extent, both. It can change with consensus, but there are some very hardline laws like paradox. But wouldn't paradox not so much be a law, but the enforcement of consensus itself? Maybe it's just semantics on that part.
The Akashiana practice the art of Do, which is a series of philosophical practices and beliefs that center mostly around honing your body, eating healthy, working out, meditating, existing in the present moment. These kinds of practices are the foci of these kinds of mages, which are the things that you do and engage with in order to manifest your will as magic.
Wait, so there's literally an entire group of mage that are literally just health junkies and fitness nuts? Oh God. I just thought of the most horrible, disturbing mage possible. A marathon mage. Now that sounds a little weird, I know. I have multiple marathon runners in my family. I speak from decades of experience on this. They are obsessive. I have a sister who decided to go vegan because she read a single article that said that it upped their speed for a marathon by 5 minutes. They went vegan with no other concern than those 5 minutes for 2 years. Religiously did it. That's it. That was it. That was the only reason. It's that level of sudden all in, ride or die, and there's no die. You just ride, man. I'm a corpse. Who cares? Keep going. It's that level of insanity that is absolutely terrifying if there's a fitness-based mage.
For the Akashiana, a big part of that is cool martial arts shit.
Okay, that's awesome.
Because this tradition is all about cool martial arts shit.
I'm
It's
okay
not
with
all
this.
of them, obviously. There's a lot of them that, you know, martial arts are not just the hoo-ha fighting, cool punch, fist, face, break, log
okay with that.
type deal situation. There's a whole nother dimension to that. But let's be honest, the people who play Akashiana, they're there for the cool martial arts shit. Basically, all of the most outlandish wuxia kung fu movies, all the mini regional martial arts you find in every town all over Asia, the Akashiana are the people who can actually do that shit. They are the predominant tradition of mages throughout East Asia, though, you know, not without competition. And though fundamentally they're pretty Buddhist, they're also very...
I wonder if they ever deal with the Jade Court, which definitely doesn't exist.
Very compatible with other religions and
And apparently Zero did a Jujutsu one. Oh God.
worldviews like Taoism, Shinto, Confucianism, and Jainism, you name them. But precisely because competition is so fierce in East Asia, the power of the Akashiana is sort of waxed and waned. And this is even though, paradoxically, they are rather a diverse tradition, but they do have a habit of politically intertwining themselves with great East Asian empires, often the Chinese one, which then gets taken over, you know, it falls, gets taken over by a different magical tradition.
And that's not even counting the Chinese empires keep taking over themselves. You think of Chinese history as, okay, here's China. Reality, it's more, okay, here are the dozens, probably hundreds of minor empires that have become China and are now just considered what became the predecessors for it. Hell, even the current China only existed since the previous one around World War II.
Whoopsie! Perhaps the greatest, as in the worst, bad. When a war is great, that means it's, you know, it's bad because war is bad. I think we're all in agreement about that. Is the Himalayan War. They fought against their sibling tradition, the Chakravanti. The exact dates of when that was not entirely clear.
Is that a minor one or a major one?
Apparently, it started somewhere around 900 BCE and then went on for a couple centuries. And even though all this was quite a while ago, both of the traditions still hold some old grudges with
I'm guessing the Chakravanti are probably Tibetan. That's probably where this on-the-nose approach would go.
each other. It turns out, and this was not known at the time, this was kept secret from all of the people who fought and died in the war, even the mages. This was done because some guy had a vision of a great unified power that at some point would try and fight all the different kinds of magic. And so he thought to himself, I need to make sure that these traditions hone their martial arts skills. And yeah, The technocracy has pretty much conquered East Asia, whether it be through the communist China, the materialist philosophy there, or like the mega capitalist dystopias of South Korea and Japan.
Yeah, South Korea, where a guy figured to write about his everyday life, and the easiest way he did to do that was writing about the city in Limbus Company. Yeah.
All that shit that radiates out to the other East Asian nations. If they didn't have the cool martial arts shit, the technocracy probably would have destroyed them. But in the 15th century, when the Council of Nine Traditions was formed, the Akashiana were in a very good place, so they were offered a seat on it. The sphere of magic that the Akashiana represent in the Council of Nine Tradition is that...
You know, considering all the aspect about physicality, I was not expecting mind to be what they decided to represent.
Of mind.
Okay.
And if you're sitting there thinking, hang on, what does mind have to do with cool martial arts stuff?
Yeah, right there.
You do that with the body.
Gee.
You should have been paying better attention. To the Akashiana, the body is honed so it isn't a hindrance to the mind, but works in harmony with it. It's supposed to help you rid yourself of your ego so you can experience the world fully. To the Akashiana, in order to be able to control the mind, you need to be able to have no mind at all. To be controlled by nothing. Not even yourself. The effects of the mind sphere are fundamentally not material because it's the mind sphere and the mind is all about thought.
Yep.
That's kind of the point of it. But you can create some very interesting effects with and without using other spheres in conjunction with this one. With it, you can do neat tricks like telepathy or mind control. Even you can acquire knowledge and emotions directly into your mind. But you can also control your own perceptions. You can turn off fear or pain if you want.
Could you make your own perceptions better? Because that seems like a much bigger advantage.
Wanted to. You can frame jack yourself into a higher state of being so you can think mega fast.
Yes, you can.
Big. Like all traditions, the Akashiana do feature a broad spectrum of practitioners.
Also, Cat with the Cheese. What's up? Thanks for dropping in.
But they do have a preference for recruiting people who are already in the ascetic and monastic lifestyle. It requires a certain strength of character to practice the magics of the Akashiana. It is very rare for an Akashiana to have more than one student at a time because their methods and the journey of broadening that student's mind, teaching them the ways of magic, which of course, they don't see it as like, oh, this is a spellcasting magic, this is like control over yourself and the world through the mind. It's grueling, it's very difficult. They're not authoritarian though, importantly. They have ranks that are because they're part of the council, but they also had them before. They indicate spiritual seniority, but not authority over others. Over the course of training, many initiates to the Akashiana actually choose a new name to represent themselves through some sort of natural phenomenon. This might
How many dumb names are there? Please tell me this is exactly what people abuse to get the dumbest name possible. I
be
really
stuff
hope
like
so.
Crashing Wave or Tranquil Grove or Skid Row. I'm only half joking, by the way, and with how wild the setting of Mage.
Yeah, because if you find the Akashiana and you say they're in Los Angeles, one of them will definitely do that. Oh god, they'd be a Skid Row kung fu fighting mage. That actually sounds awesome, man. That's unironically awesome. Also, Thomas, finally, thank you. Yeah, I know I took a long time getting back into Burger, but I wanted to do this, and this is a good example of what I can do before we ran out of time tonight. This is awesome, man. Burgerkrieg is just amazing. I love his stuff.
That's entirely possible. A few of the classic groups, sects, and factions within the Akashiana include the Banner of the Ebon Dragon, a very traditionally kung fu or
of the Ebon Dragon. I'm sorry. I do what?
The Banner of the Ebon Dragon, a very
The World of Darkness is made by White Wolf. White Wolf made Exalted. Now, maybe I'm misremembering something, but the Ebon Dragon is, that is not a reference I was expecting to see. Considering it canonically, The World of Darkness is the follow-up to the death and rebirth of the exalted universe. Yeah, that's lore that for some reason I know about. I don't know why either, or remember where I learned it.
Traditionally kung fu oriented group that sees themselves as the martial defenders of the tradition
Not what I was
against
expecting.
its enemies. The blue skins, who instead of just focusing on deprivation and asceticism and not having things in your life, believe in ascension through a path of, experiencing more things like pleasure and also a lot of negative emotions. And the Li Shen, who, and look, I know this is a big word for a lot of people. It's a word that comes with a lot of heavy historical connotations, but sometimes you just have to not beat around the bush. So I am going to say the word. They are ninjas. They're ninjas. That's what they are. They are just very cool ninjas.
I don't know why he's fighting that. That actually seems kind of awesome, man. Also, Miran, you mentioned it also ceased to be connected like 15 years ago. Ah, yes, but like everything, they lie. And because I think a lot of their setting is already between the old and new worlds, them just trying to retcon their retcon with a retcon that also says it is or it isn't, and whatever you want to be is what exactly you want to be. So you can still draw from the older stuff because it could still be connected, but it doesn't have to be. It could be. And then there's just the fact that the same company used the same terminology. Its own right is just something I'm not even going to think about.
That do cool ninja shit. It's like actual ninjas. A somewhat unusual Akashiana might be a professional wrestler whose process of being in the kayfabe all the time and portraying a character that isn't really himself is part of the spiritual process of detaching himself from his own ego. Or perhaps...
So unironically, you can make the argument that Macho Man Randy Savage is a mage. Oh my god, that's kind of awesome, man. Oh, dude. Oh, Zero, the goal is broken? Yeah, I didn't update it after a while because I figured, well, most people had stopped and I didn't want to do it because I forgot. That's completely on me. You don't usually go much longer than 3 hours. And yes, well, but actually, no. Witness writes 7,000 lines explaining why you're right and also wrong about what is or is not connected anymore. Yeah, Cosmic, that's what I'm thinking. Pablo from Norfolk Wizard Game could, in theory, be a magic man. Yeah, that makes sense.
Perhaps a sort of spiritual health guru who goes into the bodies and takes over the physical form of her students to teach them directly techniques of physical health.
I mean, to be fair, there's plenty of people who do that already. Usually they go to jail.
But while she herself hasn't moved from her meditation spot in years. Also known as the faithful or the singers, the celestial chorus are the mages that believe in God. Now, of course, God is real in the Mage universe, objective.
I've heard some people say that God is still around, and others say that the mages kicked him out. And I have no idea which one this is falling on.
He is, but so is Santa Claus. The bar for being real isn't particularly high. So these mages place even a higher instance above that. The concept of something that exists outside of all the manifestations of human imagination that exists in the upper umbra, they call it the One. As a result, the celestial chorus has adhered.
And by definition, if enough people believe in it, they could start to form their own mini consensus. Which is in its own right kind of weird because they might be or not be recognizing something real and then creating something underneath it that would fit within them. Oh, it was Chronicles of Darkness. The mages kicked him out, not World of Darkness. Yeah, that would do it.
Coming from all manner of different religions. Of course, most of them are from the major Abrahamic religions, so they're Christians, Muslims, and Jews. But they're also open to people who are a little bit polytheistic, but they have some justification for, all the polytheistic gods spring from one god. And there's a whole debate to be had about how, Catholicism with all its saints is kind of polytheistic. This is certainly a way in which it has been able to integrate.
Yeah, that's why the praying to saints part still feels weird.
Itself with polytheistic religions all over the world. It wasn't always this way, though. The choristers used to be a lot less accepting of outsiders.
Oh?
The first congregations of the celestial chorus.
It was the Crusades, wasn't it? It's explicitly Crusades. Also, Crit, it's exactly how the 40k warp works. Honestly, I think yes, but World of Darkness might actually know more about how their deep warp works, where there is a deep warp in 40k that Tzeentch doesn't know shit about.
Horus occurred in ancient Egypt during the reign of the pharaoh Akhenaten. Their golden age started when Christianity became the state religion of ancient Rome. Over time, they became more and more Catholic, more and more Puritan, more and more... actually, you have a minor thing that I disagree with you with, so you're not part of the club anymore, and I'm gonna kill you. They also, at some point, had like a whole order of paladins that served Charlemagne. The sheer brutality...
Oh, God, they had those idiots? I learned about the paladins of Charlemagne through Fate Grand Order. I thought, oh, they're playing up how crazy they are. And then I read about them. Nope. Not the case. Fate might have actually downplayed some of the stupid levels of what the fuckery, man.
Of the Crusades, though, was kind of what broke the Celestial Chorus. As a lot of members were like, really? Is this necessary? Are we the bad guys, maybe, perhaps? Yeah. And then, of course, the Puritans were gaining more power than the organization, were expelling more and more people that were, or rather, excommunicating in this context. So eventually there was just like a small core, but even there, at some point, they managed to get rid of these mega Puritans. The tradition once again returned to a rather more open state where...
Now, is that like one of the splinter factions that's a tradition, but not a major tradition? Or is that a future, and this is where they became a bad guy type deal?
They once again accepted all kinds of Christian denominations and Muslims and Jews, everyone back in, though it took them a while to become as liberal as they are today. Yeah. The modern position is that the One is universal and ineffable, and there are as many ways it reveals itself to people as there are people willing to hear its song. On those Puritans, that kind of became the Inquisition, and they later joined the Technocracy. You know, so go figure. The cool thing to...
Really? Oh, I guess it's probably the level of control. That does make sense, yeah. And Zero, is this the last video for today? Yeah, probably, because time-wise, I got 15 minutes, and then I'd probably have to cut out for not pissing off family reasons, which I do value, because I'd rather not do that again.
What I understand about the choristers is that the aspect of magic that they value the most is the avatar. The avatar is a sort of second...
That's what I was thinking. I was just like the shoulder angel that's the crazy whatever the hell it is that gives you like your prompt to make you ascend, because that's their ultimate goal. And if it's corrupted, Nefandi happens, and that's all its own level of bullshit, which I don't know much about beyond what I just said.
Consciousness that all mages have, and that's the thing that really sets them apart from regular sleeper human beings and even the night folk. And it sort of acts as a bit of a mentor and guide while still being part of the mage themselves on the road to ascension. It's a sort of idealized self. Though, I mean, I'm saying all these things, all the
an ideal, of course.
Very particular preconceptions about what the avatar is and isn't.
And whose avatar or whose idealized version, and like idealized power, idealized self, not just idealized human, but idealized monstrosity. I'm looking at some of the crazy things in the Norfolk Wizard game, and that is just insane.
Choristers, for instance, believe that the avatars are shards of the One, and every living being has such a shard within them. It's just that only the awakened ones are aware of this.
And for all we know, maybe that's accurate.
Council of Nine Traditions.
All right, this one is where I'm going to have to cut this, though, because I just saw the time, and I need to stop, because if I keep going, I will keep people awake who I would like to not, because my breathing privileges would be revoked. I'm a big fan of those. So if you guys haven't, there's a link below to the original video. Burgerkrieg's awesome, and I'm actually really looking forward to finishing more of this, because I like Mage. It's probably out of all the settings of White Wolf, my favorite one. And I'm not talking World of Darkness or Chronicles. I'm talking White Wolf. I like this better than Exalted. Never really stuck with me on that one. It's cool, but it's not really my thing. This, though, I love. Oh. And Void, you want to see more of this in 3 months? Don't worry. I could probably push it to 4. I'm joking, of course. It'll probably tomorrow morning. But yeah, you guys know the deal. There'll be links below to the original video. Hit it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.